IT Pro TV is the resource to keep you and your IT team's skills up to date. IT Pro TV's team solution provides group pricing and access to their supervisor portal. You'll gain full control over your team's training schedule, see individual and group analytics, and more. IT Pro TV does IT live every day, so you know you're getting the most current IT training. Go to itpro.tv/Security Weekly and use the code SW30 to try it free for 7 days and receive 30% off your monthly membership for the lifetime of your active subscription. To learn more about IT Pro TV's team solution, sign up for a free demo of their supervisor portal. Has your network been breached? Cybereason can help you answer this question. Cybereason products hunt for threats within your network and eliminate them in real time. To Cybereason, real time means within seconds. Founded by former military hackers who don't play by the rules, they've built this experience into their platform. Harness ingenuity and imagination, not just code, to defeat attackers. Cybereason, disrupt the adversary and let the hunt begin. Logarithm's Netmon Freemium delivers real-time network visibility to quickly identify emerging threats in your IT environment. Netmon Freemium is a free commercial-grade network forensics and traffic analytics solution. You can use Netmon Freemium's powerful capabilities to search against all observed network traffic, identify abnormal traffic patterns and application usage, and quickly analyze full packet captures. Take the first step towards real-time network visibility. Visit logarithm.com/freemium to learn more and download it today. Endgame automates the hunt for both known and never-before-seen adversaries in enterprise networks. Built on unique knowledge on the adversary's tools, techniques, and tactics, Endgame's centrally managed agent prevents, detects, and responds to advanced adversaries in the earliest stages of the kill chain without prior knowledge. Endgame, automate the hunt. So, welcome back, everyone, to Ball Security Weekly.
Woohoo! This
is security news. Very excited. Before we get started, quick announcement. Wild West Hackin' Fest, HACKIN Fest.com. Make sure you go there. Awesome conference. John is going to dress up, John Strand, like a cowboy for the conference. He promises. So that, we're going to hold him to that. It's going to be awesome.
He better. That is John Strand in the image, by the way. Have you noticed that little face?
Yes.
There? That's John right there.
And he loves that image. He absolutely loves it.
The other announcement that I had that I think I forgot in the beginning was the T-shirts that say, not this one from Logarithm, one of our sponsors, which is just awesome. The T-shirts that we had that said, "We drink because you don't change your default passwords." Lots of comments on social media. Everyone wants them. Here's the thing. We only do merchandising at conferences. So you have to come. It's one of our things. We encourage people to come out to conferences, to come see us. We do a number of shows in all regions of the country, sometimes the world. Come see us at the conference. We choose what we believe are great conferences to go to. The next conference we will be at will be DerbyCon, where we will have our merchandise. Some free, some for sale. It's kind of a mixture. And it depends on what venue that you're at as to whether, what we're charging and what is on sale and what we just kind of give out for free. So if you want one of those shirts, we do not maintain an online store. And I apologize, but I feel bad. We're not in the business of selling merchandise online. That's not our business.
Right. We used to. We found that it didn't work.
We found that we're much better at just doing podcasts, and really we're just our strong suit is sitting around and drinking and talking about security.
Yep.
And that's pretty much what we focus on.
Now that said, Paul, you could probably hire someone to do all that. The problem is that the accounting doesn't work.
And it's not, our mission is to deliver podcasts, right? And I want to say on that.
It's not to deliver T-shirts.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Well,
we're not ThinkGeek is what I'm saying.
Right.
Essentially, we're Security Weekly. We like to do podcasts. We love to do podcasts. And we're going to continue to do that and make our merchandise available at conferences. Because we want to, and the other thing is I want to encourage people to go to conferences, and we partner with and work with conferences and submit talks to conferences and speak at conferences where people ask us, and they're nice people putting on a great venue.
Right.
So when you see us at a conference, it's because we're behind that conference 100%.
And we want to talk to people and network.
And the next time we'll be at a conference that we love and support is DerbyCon.
Absolutely.
And that's where you can get
Galen will be at DerbyCon.
That's awesome.
Yes, I will.
I'm looking forward to meeting you in person.
We get really bored talking amongst ourselves.
Yeah,
please come out and talk to us.
The other thing is that with our merchandise, I have been known when people ask if they contact me that I'll send you something.
Yeah. Dude, I love those stickers. What's your address?
Yeah, like if people write in with commentary, or they're like, I have been watching the show since the early, like, select people
With awesome comments and
Our good friend Whitney, who just said twins.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, you get whatever you want. Like, you just tell us your size.
Be
Like,
creative.
You just had twins. You have 3 children. Like, hey, dude, you get whatever you want.
And she has listened pretty much from day one.
Because
I'm pretty sure she gave birth to the twins in a Security Weekly hoodie.
Yeah,
pretty
pretty much. Yeah, right. So there are people that write in that we have been known to give stuff to because they're just awesome, loyal listeners. But that's pretty much it. So right now, the way we're moving forward is if you want our stuff, come see us at a conference, or if you happen to send us a message and whatever.
You'll
not everyone. Like, don't think you can send us an email and you automatically get a T-shirt.
Yep.
Probably not going to happen. But we have limited supplies. Like, what we're printing now is limited sizes, limited styles. It's all very limited run.
Right.
Same thing with the glassware. Like, Larry, you have this,
Shall we play a game?
We're like all out of, like, this might be the one of like 3 glasses that we keep here in studio. Maybe the hosts all have 1 glass for their own personal collection.
Yep, I agree.
Pretty
I
much
have
it.
one.
Challenge coins are very limited, numbered. We gave them out to special people at the recent conferences at Black Hat and DEF CON. We'll have a limited number to give out at DerbyCon. We might do a more general
To give you an
run.
idea, I am a co-founder and continued member of this show, and do you know
Been
how
here
many,
since episode 1.
and do you know how many coins that I
How
had?
many did Sam get? Sam's the keeper of all the
and Paul
swag.
do you know how
invite
many
you to
coins Sam gave me to give away?
And Sam has been delegated with the keeper of the swag.
Yes.
If you need any Security Weekly swags, Sam is who you
Do you
go
know how many Sam gave me?
10?
5.
5.
Plus
Oh, wow,
mine.
yeah.
Plus mine, and
Wow.
I didn't give that away.
So they are very limited.
Yes, and they're numbered.
Hey, now speaking of DerbyCon, I think all of us are going to be there. Well, I am. I know you are, Paul. Right?
And I've been
there.
talking, I think it was with you, Joff, over text messages. We were talking about having Sam do something special for us, because Sam is like we dubbed her our con mom.
Yes.
Like, she keeps us, we didn't have a Sam in our lives before. Now we have a Sam.
we do.
Sam is our con mom. If Sam's not there, we're like, what should we be doing? What are we doing? What do we do? We don't know what we're doing, because Sam was not here today.
Jay is our con mom.
Yes. Jay, wow, that's Jay Beal.
Jay Beal's our con mom.
Interesting.
That's
I didn't
true.
know that.
Yep.
Jay is very
Jay is our con mom, but he often delegates that to Suzanne.
Yeah.
So
well,
Suzanne
is
is when
right.
Suzanne is at a con, Suzanne is our con mom.
Yeah, because there needs to be someone with organizational skills.
Yes.
Because typically us hackers, creative thinkers, programmers, software engineers, hackers, like, we're not very good at the organizational logistic kind of thing.
And to the point,
we need a con mom.
to the point about coming to the cons and meeting people. Do you know how many talks I saw at DEF CON?
0?
Well, does closing ceremonies count as a talk?
Half. You get half credit.
So I got half a talk at DEF CON. Do you know why? Because I spent the entire remaining portion of my con either working on a presentation in our room with Galen, or talking to people. Hallway con, lobby con.
The awesome part for me was to see the newer Security Weekly employees that were like shaking hands and hugging people, and I'm like, who is, like, they were already forming relationships in the community.
Yes.
That was like one of the biggest wins for me going to the recent Black Hat and DEF CON. That was awesome. Also, Sam was on vacation today, and we wrapped her chair in bubble wrap just because.
I sure hope she's not listening.
Yeah,
She won't be. It's her birthday. She's out
She's
partying.
going to come in tomorrow morning, and yes, her chair is going to be.
It's going to be very comfy.
Because that's how we roll here at Security Weekly.
We roll bubble wrap.
We roll bubble wrap. Yes,
Hey,
it's really
so,
Mark and I, which are a very bad combination of doing stuff like
Dear
that.
God.
Mark and I conspired to do a lot of very things like that around here in the office, which is a lot of fun. So,
Okay, moving on to the second con, though, I have to ask, how many of us are going to be at Wild West Hackin' Fest? I know I am. Anybody else?
Me, I booked my flights today.
Awesome.
I'll be there.
Speaking, and I
So-
also send in my talk abstract.
DerbyCon, Wild West Hackin' Fest, Sans Pentest Hack Fest are pretty much the 3 shows once a month that will round us out for the year.
Yep.
So, if you want to come see us, hang out. I hung with a lot of listeners at DEF CON. Like,
Absolutely.
Some people were like, hey, how you doing, Paul? And they're like, I want to meet and get career advice. I'm like, yeah, tomorrow let's go to the cigar lounge and do that. They're like, yeah, sure.
Yep.
Like that's
You don't have to smoke cigars, but you have to put up with cigar smoke.
That's right. But and that's one of the
That's
reasons to go to cons is to meet and hang out with people. That face-to-face communication is so important. And I put out a tweet. It just so happened that a lot of the new friends I made at Black Hat and DEF CON were female, and I'm like girl power, like pound sign girl power.
Yeah.
Like it was great meeting with everyone there.
Yeah.
Cool.
And to that, you know how I roll at DEF CON. It's you can't tie me down to a plan because you never know where I'm going to get
mingling. That's fine.
Because I mingle, and it was very much this year. Aside from a few select cases, I had nowhere to be at any specific time, and I also didn't beg for a single party invite. I didn't seek out any specific party invite. I didn't participate in badge life, which is the whole thing where this whole electronic badge thing totally exploded, and it's awesome. And it's awesome to see the creativity. And you know what? I didn't receive a specific invite to a party. I didn't receive a specific badge, purchased or otherwise. And I talked to so many awesome people, including one of my friends that said, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just hanging out, talking to folks. He's like, you want to go try some bourbon? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Come with me. And we ended up at the SE Village party. And they did a huge bourbon tasting. And I met all sorts of crazy new people there.
You know what Ping said to me previously today on Enterprise Security Weekly? And because I was telling him, like, I feel like I don't have... Like, I make a plan, and I'm not able to execute on it, and I don't see as many people. She's like, your problem is you have a plan.
Yes.
And you did it right.
Yes.
Like, sometimes not having a plan takes you to those new
It's one of those, you get to walk down the hallway, and someone says, Larry! And you turn around, you stop, and you talk to some dude for 10 minutes.
Yeah. No, that's the way to do it.
Yeah,
it is.
Exactly.
I like that. I'm going to take that approach too, Larry. I think just getting out there at Derby this year, certainly at Wildwood Attack and Fest, because that's our show, but a lot of mingling. We're just gonna.
I want to say thank you to our listeners as well. It was really awesome to meet as many listeners as I did, wherever we were. Mark and Sam were with me on this trip, and we were like everywhere from the vendor area at DEF CON to like in line on the Southwest flight. To or from.
Ran into someone.
Ran into someone that just shook my hand and said thank you. Like, you got everyone's awesome that listens to the show.
And I think
thank you for that.
And I don't know if that's been different for you that year, Paul, but for me, many years prior has been that. It has been very difficult to walk from one place to another without being stopped 10 or 12 times and saying, thank you so much for the podcast. We love it.
It's hard to come home from that and like do things like clean up poop, because like it's really like it brings you back down to earth. It's good that I have this experience because it brings me back down to earth. Because Shannon was my wife was joking with me. She's like, yeah, you come home and she's like, I'll put you back in your place. And I'm like, yeah, thank you for that. So that's good. That's good to have that balance, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So for the record,
you go to con and everyone's stopping you like, oh, you're Larry from Security Weekly. Like, it's so nice to meet you. And you go home and you're like, yeah, I changed diapers. Like people, sometimes I think like lose sight of like, no,
we're humans.
We're like real people too.
Like today, like that whole thing at con, and today, Galen and I were on a conference call, or Galen and I were on a call doing our daily update call, and I'm like, dude, I got to call you back in like 5 minutes, because the two kids were screaming at each other because one of them had gotten her bag of slime the homemade slime that they had made, and the bag
slime.
And the bag exploded and was all over the carpet and all over her, and she's like, and the 4-year-old, and she's crying because her slime is everywhere. And
at least it was slime and not poop. Because I had to clean poop out of a robotic vacuum. Which you haven't lived until you've cleaned poop out of a robotic vacuum.
But I had to clean glitter off the carpet, which is also kind of like Vegas.
Yeah, but it doesn't smell. Yeah, that's true. It's true. The smell is different.
That glitter's still there.
Yeah, the glitter's still fucking there. The soap, on the other hand, that the slime is made with, nice and clean right there.
I want to lead into this segment with a particular story. And this one happens to come from, be rooted in the federal government and their proposed bill or law that wants to improve IoT security. Now, I've got an analogy which I'll talk about. But so this proposed law, which is called the IoT Cybersecurity Improvement Act, its mission is to make sure that devices that are sold to the U.S. government, so it's not a consumer thing, it's specific to the U.S. government. These devices, and I quote, must be patched for security flaws. Also requires that IoT vendors not include hard-coded password on devices that cannot be changed. It also directs vendors to ensure the devices not include any known vulnerabilities and that any device uses industry standard protocols for connectivity and encryption. Now, my analogy to this as I smoke a cigar is that when we review cigars, we talk about 3 different elements of a cigar that as I've gone through the cigar industry, people have told me that's not a reviewable thing, that these are table stakes. The cigar must have good burn, draw, and construction. Very simply, that means burn means you've got to be able to light it on fire and it stays on fire. Draw is that I can actually puff on it and get smoke.
Got to be able to smoke.
Right. Construction means it doesn't fall apart when I smoke
it. Yep.
And I gave this analogy before, and I want to give it again because I think it's very analogous to what's happening in Congress. These are table stakes. The fact that my cigar has good burn, draw, and construction is table stakes. It means that I can actually smoke the cigar. That's its intended purpose.
It means I can buy an IoT device and it does what it says it's going to do.
And it's going to work.
Right.
I'm going to buy a cigar. I'm going to be able to smoke it. I'm going to buy an IoT device, and it's going to
connect
work
to my network and be a camera.
and not be affected by either internal or external conditions that cause it to not work. It's why you can go buy a TV and it doesn't catch fire.
Right.
Like our IoT devices should not catch fire, unlike a cigar, which is intended to catch fire. And maybe not burn too quickly, whatever. But these are very similar requirements, and they are table stakes. The fact that we need a freaking law that says IoT devices should not have hard-coded passwords and all these other things that we've talked about for years on this show is really kind of sad. That this needs to be in written words inside of a law that says you shouldn't hard code a password that can't be changed inside of a device completely is just mind-boggling.
But Paul, you got to understand the government is the ones that made McDonald's put on their coffee cups caution. Contents are hot.
Yeah, because somebody bought one and spilled it in their lap and it burned them. And they sued.
And won.
But that's different. That's like saying...
That is not different.
But no, it is different because when I smoke a cigar, if I put the lit end in my mouth, it burns. If I take a coffee and I dump it in my lap, it's going to burn. That's
Which
different
I've seen them do.
So now your cigars may need a warning label that says, caution, hot.
Well, mine maybe. So remember when? I can't believe I'm just about to admit this publicly, but remember when we had a party at DEF CON in one of the skyboxes when there were such things as skyboxes?
Yeah.
And Chris Nickerson, who's awesome. I love Chris and his wife are the just most adorable couple on the face.
I haven't seen Chris in a long time. And
my God!
I hope I can see him at Derby.
And his wife are just the most adorable couple on the planet. And Chris is a super nice guy. He was trying to light a cigarette. He didn't have a lighter, and he's like, "Can I borrow your cigar?" And I'm like, "Yeah, here's my cigar." He lit a cigarette, handed it back to me. But when he handed it back to me, it was backwards. When he handed it back to me, and when I went to go put it back in my mouth, I put the lit end in my mouth. And without anyone noticing, I don't think Chris ever noticed this, and I never admitted this to him until now. I put the lit end back in my mouth. I was like, "Oh my God!" And I kind of just played it off. I'm took a sip of my drink or whatever, and I was like, "Oh, everything's cool. Thanks, Chris.
Everything's fine. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. Everything's fine." But it doesn't need to include a warning label. You should know, Jeff. To your point,
it's like the warnings on a Swedish chainsaw. Seriously, it says do not use on hands or genitals. Do you know why they had to put that there? Because someone actually used a chainsaw on their hands and genitals.
It's very scary. So that's my point, Jeff, is that there's common sense things and there's things that we expect to be there. The fact that it needs to be a law means I really think that we've deviated from outside of the normal operating procedures for IoT devices. That there are things that we should just inherently expect when we buy.
But the problem
products.
is that now that we're requiring a law to determine those things that we inherently
Oh,
expect.
but wait, isn't the law just reactive to failure? I mean, that's what's really
Yeah.
happening here.
Yep.
I mean, the law is just completely reactive to failure, which arguably is what pretty much all legislation is, reactive to failure.
Yeah,
right?
we now have laws in many of the states that don't allow you to use a handheld device or text while you drive because of failure.
But the difference is, some of the things we've talked about are how users interact with the product, right? Like, I can injure my genitals with a chainsaw. I can smoke a cigar the wrong way. I can take an IoT device and use it in a very insecure way.
Mm-hmm.
However, what we've talked about with respect to IoT or really any product is that when you get it, there's a certain level of expectation that it's not going to function incorrectly when we take it out of the box, right? Or take it out of the wrapper or whatever we're doing, right? Like, I expect when I take a cigar out of the cellophane or the box or whatever it comes in, that it's going to behave in a certain way.
But there's a big distinction to be made, Paul. Operating properly or functioning properly is a whole lot different than operating in any modicum of a secure manner.
Right.
Which most consumers are clueless about.
Now, so that said, Paul can buy a cigar that has table stakes.
Yes.
Lights on fire.
Burn, draw, construction.
Yet, as clearly evident by prior to the podcast, what you do with it after it's been made by the manufacturer completely different. You can get bloom. You can get cigar beetles.
Right,
You can get cigar beetles. You can leave it in a dry room in the middle of the desert for 10 years. And as released from the manufacturer, doesn't fall apart. Leave it in that dry room in the desert for 10 years. You're going to look at it and it's going to fall apart. Or you put it in some place that's too humid and it's not going to draw because it's full of holes from the beetle.
Yeah, where are you going with this? So you could drop your cell phone in a fucking pool and it's going to not work. I mean, for Christ's sake, Larry.
Yeah, but we expect when we get a cell phone that there's not some hard-coded back door that lets anyone gain access to our phone.
No, we don't. We don't think about that. The average consumer, are clueless about that.
We don't expect the cigar when we buy it from the store to have cigar beetles in it already.
Right.
Yes.
This is true.
Maybe.
Pre-engineered defect, yeah.
Yes.
I get you.
Yeah, pre-engineered, yeah. And this meaning knowing I know nothing about cigars.
But
I
it's a
can
good
do the
point, because
analogy.
in that industry there's actually special freezers that they put the cigars in that bring it down to a particular temperature that kills
kill
the
beetles.
cigar beetles and larvae, which I didn't realize actually kills the larvae and the beetles, and does not damage the cigar, so that when you get it, you have that positive experience until such time you act irresponsibly and put it in 100% humidity environment.
I rest my case.
Which then, when you light it on fire, the heat causes it to expand even more.
Your Honor,
essentially,
the defense rests.
An exploding cigar at that point.
Yes. Yes. Speaking,
I think there's a reasonable expectation of functional capability that we should have in IoT devices, or really any device that we buy, and security needs to be part of that, I guess is my point.
I agree security needs to be part of it, but I don't think that's a reasonable expectation prima facie. I think that's something that has to be regulated and legislated and built into it.
I don't necessarily agree, Jeff. I mean, the legislation is reactive. Look, other software entities have been very successful in admittedly reactive as well, but in responding to threats. The IoT space has not. And so they got the hammer, and the hammer is the regulation.
But, we could argue this for quite a long time. Maybe we'll save this for South Dakota.
Yeah. Oh, awesome.
Yep.
No, I think it's a great talk. Anyway.
So, speaking of IoT, at DEF CON I ran across this thing, the IoT security analysis tool. And I look at it, and I went to the page at kitpoint.com. It's the Asto IO Network Security Analysis Tool. And I look at it, it's got these all really neat graphs and stuff. And, it's based on Electron and Cytoscape Java, JS and icons from material design. And I have no idea what the fuck it does. Really. And I go to look at the wiki, and if you want to find out how the app works, check the wiki. And I'm like, it's under development. And welcome to the apparatus wiki. And it's a framework to facilitate security analysis in IoT systems to make usage.
So Larry, have you let Galen look at it yet?
So the apparatus framework provides a modeling language and analysis procedures for an IoT system during the following phases. Design phase, the model of the idea. The design phase state. The implementation phase and the implementation phase state. I'm like, this is fucking useless.
Wow.
To me. Maybe someone that needs to not do default passwords.
Well,
I suggest segue.
In one of my soapbox, and the reason when you and Galen started your technical segment, I asked you what problem are you solving?
What's the problem to solve? Yep.
And
how tall do you need to be to ride this ride?
Yeah, like those questions from Michael Santorcangelo, right? Like,
absolutely.
Not just what problem do you solve, but when you're creating a tool or some kind of vulnerability or exploit or technique, like why do people care, right? And that's something I wouldn't necessarily ask people in vendor space or companies in vendor space, but when you create a tool, I think you need to first, when you're presenting your research or tool or technique, think about what problem you solve and like the use case for your particular technology.
Let's put it this way.
Let's put it this way. I have listened to this podcast and for Michael to say that enough that those were the first two things that we answered on the first slide.
You did it right. Yes.
Whether or not Galen knew it, we had massive input from industry to state that what we were doing is actually valid.
Jeff?
Exactly. Yeah.
I would like to see the question asked, in addition to what problem do you solve, what problems do you create?
Which
that's a very valid question when we're talking about developing attack tools or frameworks. What exposures or problems do you create?
Yep. And Jeff, I think with Vapor Trail, there's a potential that we could have created an issue where's the detection technology for something like this? There's no commercial offering, period.
How do we stop data
it's in a museum.
Yeah, exactly. And it wouldn't necessarily work the way we need it to work nowadays.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Boy.
Do we want to
shift to?
I think we need to talk about the elephant in the room.
Let's do it.
Voting machines?
No. WannaCry.
Yeah. Let's cry.
What the hell?
Your story number 6 also include and number 8. Your story number 9. My story number 5 with late breaking news.
So bring us up to date.
Yes.
Varying levels of journalism happening in computer security. Thank you, Michael Mimoso, for reporting correctly from a threat post and having a very the writing style from Michael is very nice, and I thank you for that because that's not always the case. Marcus Hutchins, who is the person who basically discovered that the domain name Killswitch in WannaCry existed and registered the domain name for $10.
It was not registered. He registered it.
Right. And was arrested for previously.
He was arrested leaving DEF CON at the airport to return back to the UK.
Wow.
Interesting.
And was captured by U.S. Marshals and quickly transferred to FBI custody.
Interesting.
To the point that he was in U.S. Marshals custody. The next morning, folks went to go visit him, and he was no longer in U.S. Marshals custody, and U.S. Marshals says, who the hell is he? We don't have him in our system.
He was already gone. In FBI.
He was already gone.
Well, because he violated U.S. federal law and was transferred to FBI custody, which makes sense. He was charged with creating and distributing the Kronos banking malware.
Yep.
He was known online as Malware Tech. He is a UK citizen and is being indicted for distributing malware under the CFAA.
Yep. And nearly immediately after he was arrested and this story broke, I don't know what the exact time frame was, there are folks monitoring the Bitcoin wallets of the destinations for WannaCry.
$140,000 or $50,000.
The entire contents of the WannaCry Bitcoin wallets have been transferred in the last 24 hours.
Yep. I saw that.
Oh, you think they're related?
You tell me. The guy that finds the WannaCry Killswitch gets arrested for Trojan, and then all of a sudden the money disappears in the same day.
That's interesting.
Gee, if only any of us were conspiracy theorists.
Yeah.
I was going to say, cue the spooky music.
Yeah, Galen, what do you think?
Honestly, like, it seems. I wonder. Sorry.
Start again.
Is this the guy
That's what
that
we
made
think, too.
WannaCry, basically? Or is it just he happened to make something else and it's a coincidence that he found the kill switch, right?
Or is it not a coincidence? And he wrote it
Right.
and he knew what the kill switch was and went, oh, fuck, it just hit the hospitals.
Yeah.
Yeah, was he trying to kind of back out and say, this is garnering too much attention, let me release the kill switch to try and,
Or it was never intended to go as far as it did and it went too far, so he started the kill switch to kill it. And now I'm the hero.
Right.
But then
Hopefully
who
to
transferred
be
the
exonerated.
Yeah, then who transferred the funds? Because he was in jail.
But if you create a banking Trojan, dude, and you're on the FBI's radar, like, and you're in the U.S., you got to imagine you're going to get picked up. I think
But
sometimes criminals think that U.S. federal agencies are kind of stupid to this, but they don't realize there's a lot of smart people working for the U.S. government
the big one,
tracking this kind of shit. Like, you're going to get picked up, dude.
The big one, he probably didn't realize that he was made.
Yeah. And that could be an insider. That could be.
Yep.
He was,
And
FBI
it's
has people that
surprising. I mean, they picked him up at the end of DEF CON when he was leaving. I mean, in theory, they could have picked him up anywhere along the line.
Yeah, well, maybe.
Yeah, right, Jeff. Like the thinking is they probably knew who this person was as soon as they entered this person entered the country.
Yep.
And you're right, Jeff. Why did they let him not pick him up to the end? Did they take time to put the? I mean, like a Hollywood movie, did they take time to put the pieces together and go, "Holy shit, get that person before they leave"?
Maybe.
You don't know.
Yeah, they
Well,
probably
I
had
think
the
if they had picked him up
screenplay.
during, and everybody would have been talking about it at the con, right? And this is kind of after everybody's all gone home.
Yeah, good point.
I'm with you, Galen. I think they're decent. They were being decent people in the respect of let the guy have his fun, but also not.
No,
I don't think so, Job.
No,
I think if they're
just not wanting to cause a scene and not wanting to.
if a federal U.S. federal government agency is onto someone, they are not taking into account like how much fun you're having at the conference. If the whole thing hinges on the opportunity to apprehend the suspect safely, and that was just the time that they felt was
that was safe.
or believed that was safe to apprehend the suspect safely.
Yep.
And based on whatever evidence they had collected to the point. So if they didn't have enough evidence up until that point, they wouldn't have apprehended that person. If they had enough evidence to nab that person when they landed, they would have nabbed him when he landed, dude.
Yep.
So I think
the other one
they didn't have the evidence until he was leaving, or it was just an opportune time to apprehend that suspect.
Now that said, and again, I'm second guessing everything, and everything I know about law enforcement is wrong, type of thing. That trying to do an apprehension potentially at DEF CON is a recipe for disaster. Because if you send for a couple of reasons, you send a couple of agents in to go apprehend a guy that has 25,000 of his closest friends nearby.
I don't think that's true. I don't think
it's a possibility.
So we're
it's
all
a possibility.
so we're all hackers on this podcast. If we were working for the federal government, let's say, knowing having the skills that we have, and the government FBI has people like us working for them,
they have
which I think is great.
skills.
Which I think is great, and it's good that we have that, right? For a whole lot of reasons, we would know where that person was staying.
Yep.
I mean,
absolutely.
come on now. Like I've been at conferences, and my phone is rung with my friends that like knew where I was staying. I didn't tell them where I was staying. They knew because they're hackers
Look,
and they're my friends. So if they were going to apprehend him at the conference, they would have done that already in the quietest manner possible.
Everything we're saying is speculation anyway.
Sure.
No, it is, but that's the part of the fun, Joff.
Yep.
It's to speculate.
Like, you don't go into the biker bar, one cop into the biker bar to arrest the one biker that did that thing. You catch him outside.
Well, and
when he's ready to go home.
but the other thing too is, they could have been in the investigation and been like, I think what everyone is all saying here is like, it's easiest to apprehend this person as they're leaving. So let's just wait until that person's leaving.
Yep.
As to not cause a scene.
Safe. There's no guarantee. There's a guarantee of no weapons. TSA.
Yeah, right, and that's the thing. Like the safest place to apprehend the suspect is at the airport. Once they've gone through TSA, that's the safest and most quietest place to apprehend the suspect. Let's just do it right there. And like, let's face fact: if the federal government has collected enough evidence about this person to convict them of a federal crime that violates the CFAA, they're not getting on a plane and going home. Like, their only way to get home, conceivably, and there's lots of ways, but
plane or boat.
They know, right? They know that the person is going to leave the country on commercial airline because they have seen the person's ticket, right?
Choke point.
Exactly. Yep. It's a choke point, and that's where they apprehend. So I can see that. Yeah. That was fun.
So speaking of
not fun for this person, but obviously you create a banking Trojan, dude. Like, dude, you're on high radar, man. Like. The whole thing that we as a community have to communicate to the youth that are getting into this field is what we've always said in the show. Hacking is great, but it's only great if you do it with permission.
Yep.
And as soon as you cross that line, that's the difference between having a very successful, potentially very successful career in this field and thinking about how you look in an orange jumpsuit.
Yep.
It's just what we joked about in the show. Right?
Sammy Kamkar and Kevin Mitnick are
Kevin Poulsen.
Outsiders.
Those are the anomalies, and that stuff happened a long time ago. Today, it's very different.
Sammy Kamkar not so much long ago, but
fairly recently. Yeah. But Sammy's been on the show and talked about his whole experience. The difference between having permission and not having permission is being in the orange jumpsuit in federal prison. So I want to make that message very clear to everyone listening to this show. Like, there are consequences.
Absolutely.
And even more so today than there were 15 or 20 years ago. So, yes.
So, Paul, I'm going to jump ahead of you because it's a great segue. And it's quick. Speaking of weapons and TSA, talk at DEF CON from Plone. He found a way to hack a specific brand of a smart gun. The smart gun.
I heard about that.
There you go. Nice ash. The smart gun has a watch. So effectively an RF-enabled wristband that you have to wear when you fire the gun. It has to be within a foot or so of the gun. So if you're wearing it on your wrist, it's within a foot or so of the handgun.
Yep.
And it transmits a code to the gun to unlock it to allow it to fire. Otherwise, you pull the trigger and it does nothing.
Nothing happens.
He found a way to...
Total recall?
Yes. He found a way to, one, replay the signal. So you take the watch and you put it several feet away, and you have a little transmit receive, and then you have another little transmit receive you put next to the gun, and it effectively is a proxy. Vapor trail repeater. That's awesome. Communicates to the gun using the exact same chipset and transmit to the gun distance and will fire with the gun further away. But now there has to be some proximity of the other things. He also built a transmitter using the same chipset to denial service.
So you can't fire the gun.
So you can't fire the gun even though the watch is there.
Replaying the signal, though, I'm pretty sure I saw that in War Games.
Yes. The absolute most brilliant, and the vendor argued, well, that requires some sophisticated equipment to discover. Well, yeah, it did. But now that the implementation is out there, it costs less than $50 in parts to do. Either denial of service or extend distance. But even better, for about $5 in magnets from Amazon and a wooden dowel and a screw, he found the way the gun operates is that when you receive the code that says, yes, you can fire, it fires up an electromagnet that pulls a pin down that allows the firing pin to engage. So he takes some high-powered neodymium magnets and holds it to the side of the gun with the watch nowhere to be found.
Yeah, can bypass the...
He's effectively using the magnet to replay the electromagnet.
Yeah. This sounds very similar to the way that electronic locks were often defeated.
Yes.
Yep.
Been there, done that. Yep.
Very scary to have... my fear is for law enforcement to have this technology and have it be defeated. Very scary to talk about if your weapon, military or federal government, like to have it not to fire, to have it rely on this type of technology is very, very scary.
Yep.
I think it's more like security awareness and training.
Yep.
To combat this problem rather than technology about who can fire a gun and who can't. And it works well in Hollywood.
Right.
But not so much in practice.
Right, because in Hollywood they've got a perfect system.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Plone's thing was, I'd hate to see the industry move forward with a flawed system.
No, and it's good. And so the voting machine was also a big thing.
Yep, voting machine village, which I didn't even know was a thing at DEF CON until after I heard that almost all the voting machines had been hacked like 90 minutes in.
Was there, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, was there some type of legislation that needed to happen to allow or be exonerated to allow this to happen at DEF CON? I saw Katie Mazouras and making some posts about
my understanding was all the voting machines that were used were purchased as surplus on eBay. Mm-hmm. And just because they were surplus doesn't mean they weren't in use in another district. Mm-hmm. So the first one that fell was in use in a bunch of places, including the entire state of Nevada, but had been used in another district somewhere else and had released their stuff for sale surplus on eBay. One of them, a different one, if I remember correctly, was purchased off of eBay as surplus equipment, and they did forensic analysis, which was stupid simple, and found the results and voter records of the folks from a previous election, even though the device was allegedly wiped.
My goodness. Wow.
Crash game.
That was going to be my question, Larry, by the way. I was like, oh, surely they left, artifacts of prior Yeah.
Yes.
They did.
Yes.
Yeah. Great.
Yep.
there were there's actually a Rhode Island congressman.
Yep, Jim Langevin.
Thank you.
Which was interesting because it was funny because they were talking. They had these two little forums. They did it one night. It was so successful. They did it a second night, and one of the nights that Jim Langevin says, "I'm surprised no one's hacked my wheelchair."
Yes.
Because he has one of those uber awesome self-balancing regular height wheelchair type things.
So so there's a couple of things here.
I would love to be on that show.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things here. In order to allow the voting machine hacking, they required people like Jim Langevin to lobby to there's an arcane law, the Wassenaar
Agreement?
Wassenaar Agreement.
Yep.
It says basically these things can't happen. There were a lot of people follow Katie Mazouras on Twitter. She tweeted about it that allowed this to happen, which I think is very important for the protection of U.S. elections and freedom, basically, to prevail. So very, very groundbreaking in that respect. Also, Security Weekly exclusive. One of our hosts, Doug White, who hosts Security Digital Life, has a very good relationship with Jim Langevin and is interviewing him next week.
I would love to participate.
Secure Digital Life. Yeah, next Wednesday. So obviously this topic is going to come up, and we're going to get a lot of information. When Katie was tweeting and posting on Facebook this was happening, I was like, yeah, this is right in our backyard, and yes, we already have interviews scheduled. So it's really cool.
Excellent.
What else? I wanted to talk about.
What else?
There was another story.
Yep. And when you have one, if you don't have one, my story number 3 because it's very relevant to our T-shirt.
Okay, do that while I pee. How about that?
So number 3 was quote billboard hacks, and the story got linked to from Graham Cooley, and my tagline was "We drink because you don't change your default passwords." Some folks were able to get hold of the TeamViewer password for a particular firm that is responsible for supporting digital billboards in the UK.
Oh my.
And they went and changed the digital billboards to be all sorts of stuff from like Reddit, like alt-left. So there was Nazi stuff, and there was, Big Brother is watching you, and all this type of stuff on these billboards. But to make things even better, not only did they spew all of this stuff on these big digital billboards, they changed the damn passwords so the legitimate owners couldn't get back in and fix it.
That's so awesome.
And it was multiple hours and multiple phone calls to the police before the billboards were actually, in fact, shut down and turned off.
So, So again, it's like a theme of the show. We're 25 years ago where we're just hacking for fun, and what can we do, and what can we do to be disruptive? Is there monetization in it? Is there a threat that we should be worried about other than we don't like what we're seeing on the billboard?
Other than graffiti, basically.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like website defacement in the early 90s.
Yeah, I mean, we could, like Galen just said, you could have put ads up there we didn't pay for.
Right.
Like,
ooh.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the screenshot of Big Brother is watching you, the Nazi flag, and warning: this is a Sharia-controlled zone. No alcohol, no gambling, no porn. And this other one that I don't understand.
Well,
who the fuck are these?
So that would go over well in the UK.
Why are they such a big deal all of a sudden?
That's interesting, Larry, because it could have gotten really ugly. It's not just defacement; it's perhaps defacement with an agenda.
Yeah. Yep.
But still, no direct monetary cost. I mean, there could be some libel in there.
About
certainly politics.
We're talking about your poop.
Politicking, yeah.
Cleaning out of a robotic vacuum.
Yes.
I'm going to write a blog post about that.
Paul?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. The images of the billboard were posted on the Paul politically incorrect message board of 4chan. Go figure.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yep, it does. It does. So, yeah, so the Paul was that there's some billboards, TeamViewer password, put a bunch of offensive stuff up there potentially, and then change the password so the support folks couldn't get back in and fix it. Story number 3, billboard hacks.
Net neutrality. Where does everyone stand on? So apparently there was a distributed denial of service attack on the FCC that prevented people from commenting on net neutrality. There was a great video that was very entertaining. Where did it come from? John Oliver?
Oh, yeah, all right.
Oh, yeah.
What is it? He has a show. He's very entertaining.
He has a show on HBO.
Yeah.
Daily News Show on HBO.
I guess 3 years ago he did a segment on net neutrality and caused like their site to go down.
Yep.
And then anyway, all kinds of drama. Great video that John has posted that really, in a very entertaining way, but don't let that take away from the message that he provides and kind of the insider crap that's going on for net neutrality. And basically what it boils down to is that we need to prevent that kind of conflict of interest in ISPs. Yeah. He calls it ISP fuckery. Like well, flat out, he calls it like we need to stop ISP fuckery. And what people who are against the regulation of the internet and opposed to net neutrality say is that, well, it hasn't happened up to this point. And I'm like, well, the reason it hasn't happened up to this point is because during the Obama administration, ISPs were classified as Title II, which means they have to treat everyone the same way.
Yep.
Which basically means if you have Bing and Google and Microsoft is giving you money, you can't favor Bing and destroy the bandwidth to Google search.
Right.
And just the way he presents it is really funny.
Yep.
And gives lots of examples of that. And largely the argument I've seen from people is like, well, it hasn't happened in this time. And I'm like, But you don't want it to happen. Like, ISPs are not good, and the arguments are not, like, they are not built on facts or reality at all.
No.
At all.
None.
And they're like, well, if we get net neutrality really crippled their ability to make money, and they haven't put any money into infrastructure. And very smart on John Oliver's part.
Yep.
They went back to a Verizon statement that was a communication to their shareholders, which is public.
Yep.
Because when you're a public company, those kinds of things are public, right? And they said, well, this, several years ago, they were like, well, this ruling on net neutrality isn't going to impact our commitment to putting money into infrastructure and growing our business in Fios, internet, or whatever. So Verizon, for example, has come out and said, basically, this isn't going to impact our business.
Right.
And we're going to continue putting money. And the argument that, like, the Trump administration regulators and the asshat that, because he isn't, I'm sorry, I don't want to get political.
He's a douche canoe.
The FCC commissioner is an asshat, and I just formed that Ajat Pai, right? Mm-hmm. That they make fun of him because he has a big Reese's cup. Watch the video. If you read the article in the show notes, it goes to the video and it explains all this. Like, the argument he gives is, well, they were limited in their ability to expand because of net neutrality. I'm like, no, dude. At least in the shareholders meeting, they said they're going to continue to put money. It's really upsetting to me.
The fuckery.
The fuckery. The ISPs.
Fuckery. The fuckering.
It just, the whole ISP thing, just it rubs. I want it to have a choice, right? I don't want it to be driven by. And he shows clips of interviews that basically, like, well, the interview is like interviewing someone from Verizon, or actually they're interviewing Ajit Pai, and they're like, well, so what if Comcast has a TV network, mm-hmm. and that TV network competes with Netflix? And since Comcast owns the bandwidth as an ISP, they make Netflix much slower mm-hmm. than the TV show that's provided by Comcast. And then he picks apart his answer as, like, complete bullshit. And, like, that's the heart of net neutrality, right? Like, and for us as an independent podcast organization, it hits home because I don't want ISPs to say, well, the people that give us lots of money, mm-hmm. their content's going to be delivered very quickly, and everyone who doesn't give us a whole bucket of money, their content is going to be delivered very slow. I mean, that's
because somehow we believe the internet should run differently than the way the whole world operates, which is where money talks.
Right.
True. However, that's the way it's worked till now, and has completely changed the face of business and let people like us mm-hmm. and lots of other businesses operate because there is a fair and open internet. Yep. And I'm not a huge fan of regulation, but this, in my opinion, it speaks to, like, the mafia. Like, oh, I pay the mafia, and then I can operate as a business.
Yeah. For protection.
For protection.
Right. I think what gets me is there's stuff in place that, prevents new ISPs from coming in to compete with existing ISPs in, like, localized areas. So it's very hard, for a new ISP to come in and say, hey, we don't limit your speeds to Netflix. Buy us instead, because they just mm-hmm. can't provide that service. So I feel like you can't have it both ways. Do you want to be regulated or not regulated?
So when you guys are playing around with your, what did you call your tool? Your Vapor radio tool? Figure out a way to monitor it, and then you could figure out a way to monitor the bandwidth usage of all these ISPs.
No. No. On a side
Larry,
note,
I want you to be Big Brother.
No. On a side note, we talk about late night TV with who? Who was that?
John Oliver.
I read a fantastic book on there was an autobiography, Born a Crime, from the host of The Daily Show, Trevor Noah. Mm-hmm. It's his sort of autobiography about growing up, and very much I wouldn't say rags to riches, but rags to someplace awesome. Unbelievable story about him growing up in South Africa. So
during apartheid,
right? During apartheid, which is the title of the book because he was the product of a white father and a black mother, which was illegal during apartheid, and he was born during apartheid.
Yeah, so like legally he didn't exist or something. I've heard him talk about it.
It was crazy. Go read the book. It was an amazing story. He's a comedian, so he brought comedy to all of these really tragic situations, and it was an unbelievable read. I've read it twice in the last month.
Cool.
Moving on.
Wrapping up, perhaps.
Yeah.
So there is a website. I forget what was the website called. Hold on. You could go to the FCC website and like navigate around, and they created a website from John Oliver's show. It was FCC something. Hold on. I don't remember what it was. The link is in the show notes. You can go there and
go direct.
Basically,
you can also go to Comedy Central and download a plugin that's called Make Trump's Tweets 8 Again. And all his tweets come across written in crayon.
Oh, God.
The other thing it can do is provide commentary to the FCC to encourage them to classify ISPs as Title II so that everyone can use the internet in a fair and open manner.
Yep.
Which is what I'm a big proponent. And if you don't agree, that's fine.
It's fine. Absolutely.
That's fine.
You're allowed to.
You know how to engage with us. I'm happy to have the debate.
Yep. We might not see eye to eye by the time the end of the debate is over, and that's perfectly fine.
That's perfectly fine, too.
We're human beings, and we can agree to disagree.
And obviously, we're kind of somewhat jaded on the issue, as we're an independent media organization. But I am, in this case, I am against regulation. And, Cory Doctorow certainly opened my eyes as a guest on this show that's really, spoken to regulation in the most intelligent manner. That it's not all bad and it's not all good. This is one case where I disagree wholeheartedly with the I actually agree with the regulation, and there are other times where I wholeheartedly disagree with the regulation.
Which, by the way, Galen, I don't know if you realized, but when we were doing our Demo Labs presentation, one of the gentlemen that I spoke with at length while you were doing demos, I believe, with the gentleman that was asking all the technical questions, was Cory Doctorow.
Nice. Oh, wow.
Yes.
I did not realize that.
Yes. The gentleman with the very, really thick-rimmed white and orange glasses.
That's Cory.
Yep. That's Cory.
Nice.
Yes. So he was very interested in Vapor Trail.
Yeah, what did Cory think of?
He thought it was awesome.
Yeah,
I
can see that.
Yeah.
He's so smart. He did a book signing at DEF CON.
Yeah. And I said, Cory, I think we met last year. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah, you were at the No Starch Press book booth that was right next to the Security Weekly stuff, and you were doing a book signing.
We did meet him.
We met.
Yes.
And I said, I don't blame you if you don't remember. You met so many people, but I can tell you when I met you, and it's great that you have some interest in the project. Let me tell you about it.
And he definitely suffers from wherever he goes at a conference like that. People recognize him.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was great to connect with him on the, hey, let me tell you about this project that we did. It's cool.
I love Cory.
Yeah, it's funny that like that whole fanboy thing goes in two directions.
It does. I know, because I'm like telling you, we're like totally like Cory Doctorow fanboy.
Yeah. It's funny that Jeff is telling us to wrap up and not the production staff. I think they're all sleeping over there.
So
they fell asleep.
I want to talk about ad blockers. We mentioned this before. Chrome is building in an ad blocker. Do you guys know about this?
I had not heard.
I've heard about it.
This hits on a lot of security topics that we've talked about on the show, specifically when I go to a completely legitimate website and their ad services trickle down 2 or 3 or 4 layers, and in that layers they're serving malware to my browser.
Yep.
And what I thought was interesting, so a couple of different points. The highlights are, one, Google is introducing something in the next version of Chrome, which is not available yet. It's only available in an early adopter program. And they're calling it something weird. Funding choices is what they're calling it. So essentially, they'll block ads. However, if I want to enable that feature, I have to put money in a Google wallet. When I put money in that Google wallet, it's shared between Google and the advertiser. And if Google gets money and the advertiser gets money, I don't see ads as a consumer, and the advertiser, Forbes, Wired, what have you, and Google get money. It's really kind of it's a mafia play, like Jeff was talking about before. Really, right? There's a couple of different mafias at play. There's like the Italian and the Irish mafia. Like, I don't know which is which. Google's might be the Italian mafia, and the advertisers like Forbes and Wired might be the Irish mafia. I got to pay off the mafia if I don't want to see advertisements. What I found interesting was the article, which was pretty good from Naked Security. Lisa Voss wrote a really nice article, and Lisa kind of chronicles like this has happened where Forbes and Wired are the two kind of biggest proponents, and I mean they have to go, like she's put in the article, they're like they got to go to the grocery store and buy food for their families. Yeah, I get that, but she's like, once they started requiring that people either pay or view the ads, the people that view the ads got malware. I think it was Forbes that had that issue, and it's been there's been a huge back and forth. Oh my God! And she chronicles it in this article. Where is it? And she wrote something really, really funny in this article, and I can't find it right now. There's like a whole back and forth between ad blocker and Facebook. It was with Facebook, like the ad blockers. Oh, here we go. So the most galling of the skirmishes is ad blocking, ad blocker, anti-ad blocker blocking. Oh no, you don't ad blocker blocking wars in January when Forbes offered users who disabled ad blockers an ad light version of the site. So Facebook has gone through this too, where whatever the ad blocking plug is for Chrome, basically said, hey, we can block Facebook ads now. Right?
Great.
Facebook ads seems like, oh, no, you don't. Like now we have ads and it bypasses your ad blocking. And so there's this whole war going on in the ad blocking world.
Yep.
Which is just very concerning.
And which is the scary part is that this reminds me so much of the TiVo 30-second skip thing.
Yeah. Exactly. You're very right. Yeah.
And that I don't have 30-second skip on my DVR at home from Verizon.
You used to have to hack TiVo to get that.
Well, no, it used to come by default.
And then they removed it, and then you had to hack it. Right.
And my Verizon DVR doesn't have it, but you know what I have? I have this jump like 5 or 10 seconds. No, I have this jump 5 or 10 seconds, and you go boop, 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 and it's done.
Right.
Well, it's actually usually more boops than that, and every time I talk to my mom, she's like, "Did you see that commercial?" And I'm like, "Nope."
Nope.
Did you see the commercial? Nope. Did you see that cute commercial? And
nope.
Was it on during the Super Bowl? Nope.
Because what? I have Cody.
You're un-American not watching the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
So, Larry, on a closing note, Larry and I have had in-depth discussions about home theater hacking. Home
theater.
Home theater.
Home media, yes.
When I got back from Black Hat and DEF CON, I took some time off, and one of my projects was changing around our home theater. And I've been working on this project for probably 6 months now. Larry and I had almost 45-minute, which is rare that you and I get 45 minutes of
because I left work early to come.
Like John Strand says, people think that like we talk every night and be like, "Hey, how you doing?"
Yeah.
Like no, like we're busy. We have jobs and family. When we get to see each other, we cherish that time.
Yep.
Larry and I had 45 minutes of cherished time today.
Yes,
and
because I left work early specifically to come here to talk to you because I have a solution that isn't fucking working anymore.
Our cherished time was spent on home theater hacking. So I think we're going to do a slightly off-topic, like hacking your home theater kind of segment on the show, because at least one listener, and I know like when one listener requests something, there's probably at least a dozen or so more, or maybe more that want that content about how we've hacked our home theater systems to be able to watch
what we want to watch.
So I'm looking forward to that. We had a great discussion today.
We did.
Kind of interesting. We both spent money too, because we were talking with each other. We're like, "Oh, I totally need to buy that." Like,
well, I haven't spent the money. It's in my cart.
It's in your cart. Yeah, I spent money. It was only $35, but we'll talk about that when we do that segment. That's gonna be a fun segment. So
Yep, absolutely. And I think I would hate to say it, but I think it should maybe be a bonus show in addition to
something. Yeah, like no, let's just do it as a segment on Paul Security Weekly.
Yeah,
that's what the people want. Damn it, we're gonna give you what you want. All right. So we're gonna do a segment on home theater hacking.
Sounds good.
I want the episode to end. Give me what I want.
Okay, Larry, take us out.
Over and out? No, not this one, right?